Hello everyone, my name is Chaplain Benjamin Brandt, and welcome to Danger Chapel Virtual Services. Every week, we'll be posting a new virtual service that we hope will nourish your soul and strengthen your faith. Well, hey, good morning everyone. Welcome to another Danger Chapel virtual service. It is such a privilege and honor to bring these to you. And so hopefully you're sitting somewhere comfy and got a nice warm beverage before you, or a cold beverage, depending on the time of day, and you're ready to enjoy. I'm really excited to share a story that Jesus told with you this morning. It's a story of a father and two sons. And the way that this father loves his sons is perhaps too good to be true for most of us to believe. And yet, it's what Jesus tells, and so I'm going to put my money in that bank. Before I get there, I want to sing a song, and the song is called I Lost It All. It's by Aaron Lewis. Again, I Lost It All by Aaron Lewis. It's a story of pain and heartache, of shame and regret, and one of the sons, I think if he were in our time, might relate well to this song. And my guess is there are many of you out there like me who can relate to a song like this. So again, I Lost It All by Aaron Lewis. I hope you enjoy. I'll go to heaven, 'cause I spend my time in hell. Never claim to know the answers, I've faked it pretty well. And I've walked straight through the valley, full of shames and of death. And I've learned a lot of lessons, they haven't killed me yet. I lost it all, tried to make it through my pain. I lost it all. It'll never be the same. Right now the only thing that's left is sadness and the shame. I lost it all. It'll never be the same. I lost it all. I've heard so many stories full of sadness and regret, and I've learned a lot of answers to the things I didn't get. I lost it all. I tried to make it through my pain. I lost it all. It'll never be the same. Right now the only thing that's left is sadness and the shame. I lost it all. It'll never be the same. I lost it all. Now somewhere in my darkness there shines a little light, a chance for me to be forgiven. I couldn't get it right. I lost it all. I tried to make it through my pain. I lost it all. It'll never be the same. Right now the only thing that's left is sadness and the shame. I lost it all. It'll I faked it pretty well. Yeah, for some reason I've been drawn to the laments, the sad songs lately, because they help, I guess, normalize how I often feel internally, right? And so often when we get into these feelings of shame and pain and regret, we often feel so isolated and alone, like we're the only ones with messy lives. And songs like this help remind me that I'm not the only one who's a little bit or a lot of a mess, and that none of us are perfect, and none of us perform flawlessly in this world. And the story that we're going to look at this morning, that is certainly true for both sons, actually. Though one is going to find it quite difficult to see that. So if you got your text with you, you can turn to Luke 15. I'm going to pick it up at verse 11. However, I'm not going to read verbatim. I'm going to try and tell the story as if you and I were just sitting across from each other having a conversation. If Jesus were to kind of tell it in our day, this is how I imagine he might tell it. So it starts off like this. A man had 2 sons, and the younger of them one day came to his father. Now the younger son, he's a grown man by this time. He comes to his father and he says, "Father, give me my inheritance." Now, that may not seem like the worst thing in the world to you. However, that's basically the younger son saying, "Dad, you're dead to me. I don't want you. I don't care about you. Just give me your stuff so I can get out of here." And so you can imagine the pain that would cause the father. And this father in the story, as far as I can tell, it's not so much the personal pain of rejection that he's feeling. It's a pain of, "Oh son, you don't know what you're asking for. You don't know what you're doing here." But the son is free to choose, and so the father, in this move of great grace and compassion, he splits everything that he has and gives a third of it, maybe a half, to his youngest son. And so his younger son takes his inheritance and he heads off to a distant land. And there he squanders everything that his father had given him. He squanders his whole inheritance. And my kids watch this, so to put it in the PG version, he squanders it on, we might say, shady ladies, SD and rock and roll, something like that, right? Just goes the party lifestyle and blows it all. And so now he's out of cash and he's in a bad way. And so he says, "Well, I'll hire myself out to these pig farmers. I can't go back home, or I'm too prideful to go back home, one of the two." And so he hires himself out to some pig farmers, which for his time and place in the world, that would have been quite shameful if his peers ever found out. And as he's out feeding the pigs, he can't make enough to feed himself, and so he's starving, looking at the pig feed and wishing he could eat that, but his employers won't let him. And so as he's filthy and covered in mud and full of shame and regret, and realizing what a fool he's been, he says, "How many servants are well fed in my father's house? I know what I'll do. I'll head back home and I'll say, 'Dad, I'm not worthy to be called your son, but just make me like one of your hired servants.'" And so the younger brother begins this long journey home, and you can imagine the sort of fear that journey might entail, the anxiety that might be provoked. What is Dad going to do? How is he going to react? How bad is this going to go for me? Am I going to die? Am I going to live? What does this future hold? And so after a long journey home, as he is approaching his house, in my head I sort of imagine there's a sort of a central home and like a ranch that's surrounded by a bunch of acreage, and you kind of got some free-range animals and some crops growing somewhere. And as the younger son is making his way up whatever the ancient version of a driveway is, sort of making his way up the path from the main road to the house, the father from inside the house, he looks out and he sees his son. Now you can imagine what the father's response might be, right? You can imagine if he behaved like many dads that we know, if we were in his shoes, how we might behave. You can imagine he might position himself, sort of on the front porch in this elevated position, maybe with his arms crossed, waiting for his son to come back, and if he can quell his anger enough to let his son get out his apology, there's going to be severe ramifications. He's going to be punished, and if he ever gets recognized as a son again, it's going to be a long, long time from now. Because that's how we might imagine a typical dad would do it. However, that's not what this father does. Instead, this father, when he sees his son, he gathers up his robes around him and he takes off sprinting down the path, sprinting down the driveway toward his son. And you can imagine, if you're the son, how terrifying that might be. Like, why is dad running at me? Is he so furious and enraged that he's gonna just tackle me and beat me to death? Like, what is this? What's going on? And as the father gets closer and the son is just sitting there, you can imagine just cringing, just waiting for the blow to come. His father gets close enough that he can read his face, and across his face he sees tears, and he sees the biggest smile he has ever seen on his father's face. I mean, just an ear-to-ear, face-splitting grin of absolute joy and delight. And his father races down the driveway, wraps his son up in a massive bear hug. And the son, he's so overwhelmed, but he's got this speech prepared, and so he tries to get it out, but the father won't hear any of it. The son doesn't even have a chance to apologize. He doesn't have a chance to say, I'm not worthy. He doesn't have a chance to say, just bring me on as a hired servant. No, the father will have nothing of that. Instead, in joy and delight, he tells his employees, hey, come on, go grab the ring with the family crest on it, and go grab the finest robe and put it on him, and go get the calf that we've been fattening up. Go slaughter that out. We're having a barbecue. My son is home. He was dead and now he's alive. And you can imagine, if you're the younger son, what sort of joy and delight you might feel, and also what sort of denial might be going through your mind. You can imagine how uncomfortable that ring might feel, how uncomfortable that robe might feel. Not physically, but sort of emotionally. You might be consistently telling yourself, I'm not worthy. What is Dad doing? This isn't right. I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy of this title. And yet Dad has bestowed it on me. I don't know what he's thinking. You might be wondering, is this going to last, or at some point is Dad going to come to his senses and take the robe and the ring back? The answer to that is no. Dad is fully aware of his senses, and he's never going to take the robe. He's never going to take the ring back. They're yours because you're his son, because you're his daughter. Now, while all this is going on, the older son, who's been sort of absent from the story to this time, he's stayed with the father, and he's been out tending the fields. And so the older son has been out all day working in the fields, slaving away, in his words, for his father. And as he comes back toward the house, he hears the sounds of a party. Maybe there's some acoustic music going on. He can smell the scent of the roasting meat. He can hear the shouts and the lights. Maybe there's some dancing going on. And I suspect that he knows what's going on. And so rather than entering the party immediately, he stays back. He doesn't go in. He stays outside. He chooses to hold himself outside. He sends a servant in to go figure out what's going on. The servant goes in, comes back out, and he says, your brother, he's home. And your father, he slaughtered the fattened calf for him, and isn't this great? Isn't this wonderful? And the only expression that comes across the older son's face is rage. He's indignant, he's angry, he's frustrated, he's furious. And so in the same way that the father left the house to go to the younger son, the father once again leaves the house, leaves the place of safety and security, the place of joy and delight. He leaves that and he goes out to his older son as well. When he gets there, his older son, he says, I've been slaving away for you all these years, and never once did you slaughter the fattened calf for me or my friends. Never once. We didn't even get a goat. Like, I've been slaving away, not serving, not obedient, slaving away for you, Father. That's how he describes it. But this son of yours, not my brother. Oh no, he's not my brother anymore. No, this son of yours comes home, and you throw this party. You slaughter the fattened calf for him. Like, how dare you? How dare you? And the father responds. He says, my son, you've always been with me, and everything I have is yours. But I had to celebrate because your son was dead, but now he's alive. Your brother was dead, but now he's alive. He was lost, but now he's found. And that's where the story ends, and we're left to wonder, does the older brother ever come inside and enter the father's joy? Does the younger son ever fully allow himself to be a son? And we don't have answers to those questions because we're still answering those in our own lives. And along the way, many have put down their older brother status and entered the party and celebrated the return of the younger. And along the way, throughout history, many younger brothers have turned from their folly and walked back into the Father's embrace. But all of us, whether we tend toward older brotherness or younger brotherness, I think all of us are trying to wrap our minds around just how unusual and delightful and too good to be true, yet it is the Father's love for us. Many of you out there are probably feeling a lot of shame and regret. My guess is that when I sing a song like this, where I lost it all, maybe you haven't literally lost everything, but boy, you've experienced loss and shame and regret, and you found yourself maybe in the midst of what my friend calls a shame storm. I don't know if he coined that phrase or if there's some popular author who claimed it, but I thought it was a great phrase, a shame storm, in which you ever been in that place where it feels like all of your demons have come back to haunt you, right? Every foolish thing you've done, everything that you're embarrassed, everything that you feel guilty about, really everything that you feel ashamed about, it is just ping-ponging around in your head, and you can't get out, and it brings you to this place where you feel like you're in this dark room, this dark courtroom, surrounded by all these accusers. And the worst part is as far as you can tell, that they're right. And you can't remember any of the beauty about you, any of the beauty that is within you. All you can remember is your mistakes and your shame and your regret. And you go from saying, yeah, I've made some mistakes in my life, but I'm still lovable, to I am a mistake. Yeah, I've done some bad things, to I am a bad thing. Right? That's the trap of shame. And my hope is that if you find yourself in that position today, whenever it is that you're listening to this, that you would hear this story and see just how different the Father's love is from what we might say the world's love is. Right? Typically in our lives, what we experience as love is, I will love you if you behave well enough. I will love you if you look good enough. I will love you if you make enough money. I will love you if you're a person of good enough character. I will love you if, I will love you if, I will love you if. But is that how the Father loves his sons in this story? No. Do you see any ifs in the story? I don't. Rather, the younger son who goes off and squanders everything, I mean, he doesn't even have a chance to apologize, yet the Father wraps him up and welcomes him back into his family. He says, well, the truth is the son tried to leave the family, and it's like the Father never counted him out. It's like in the Father's eyes, the son never stopped being the son despite his terrible and awful and mean misbehavior. Rather, the son was always loved by the Father. And the truth is the older brother has mistaken something here. See, the older brother, he thinks, because I have obeyed, and again, it's not just obeyed, because I have slaved away for my father, because I've always obeyed him, that's why Dad loves me, because I obey. And if I keep obeying, Dad will keep loving me. And he certainly can't love my younger brother or his other son because he's disobedient, right? And so both brothers believe that their love and acceptance is conditioned, that their worthiness is conditioned upon their behavior. But the Father, who is clearly a God figure in this story, the Father in this case doesn't love them based on their actions. He simply loves them because they're his. Like the love is conditioned upon the Father, not upon the sons. The older brother thinks, because I've done so well, that's why my Father loves me. But his father says, my son, you've always been with me. Everything I have is yours. Don't you see, it's not because you've obeyed, it's because you're mine, because you're my son that I love you. You're my child. The younger son likewise, he thinks it's because he's disobeyed, and no, I love you because you're my son, you're my child. And so if you're out there and you're watching this and you think, you're full of shame and fear and anxiety, wondering, does God truly love me? Am I truly worthy? And depending on your personality, maybe you've been running away for a long time and living the rock and roll lifestyle, so to speak, and you think because you've racked up all these sins on that side of the scale, you think somehow you've outsinned God's love. That's not true. There's no scales here. The Father's not measuring he doesn't wait for the younger son to somehow make up for his foolish behavior. He doesn't wait for okay, so you left for 5 years and blew this inheritance, and so as soon as you earn that money back plus what would have come in those 5 years, and serve me for an extra 10, then I'll make you my son. No, that's not. He says, bring the ring, bring the robe, welcome home. I love you. I've always loved you. I've never stopped loving you. Even when you're covered in mud and filth and you smell like pigs, I love you. And if you tend toward older brother and you think that if I'm perfect, then God will love me, and you're haunted by all of your imperfections, well, A, let me clue you in and clue myself in here, because that's where I tend. You're not. You can't. As far as I can tell, some folks would disagree, but I don't think you're going to get there in this lifetime. There's a part of you that's ugly and flawed, and God He doesn't love you because you're so well behaved. Maybe you grew up in a household that rewarded good behavior. You got straight A's, and so you were rewarded, or you did well on the ball field, and so you were rewarded, and or you were just you just never got in trouble, and so thus you were rewarded. Whatever it may be, and you think that's why you're loved. You think that because you grew up on performance-based love, that's how God must do things. But again, read the story. That's not how the Father loves. He simply loves because you're lovely. He loves because he chooses to love. And your worthiness as his son isn't predicated on your actions. And if you can bring yourself, rather, if you can let Jesus, who is the true brother, who's the true younger son who goes out and gathers up all the lost sons, who is the true older brother who leaves the Father's joy and goes out and softens these hard hearts of us older brothers. If you can allow Jesus to leave the 99 and gather you, and if you will allow him to bring you inside the Father's joy, if you can put down your control, put down your guards, put down your shields, and simply allow yourself to be fully loved by the Father, then what you will find is every longing of your soul will be satisfied. And all these things that you've been chasing, a thick enough bank account, a chiseled enough physique, a good enough whatever, they just start to fade away to the background, and you realize you're already loved. And so you don't have to go and do all these things that you thought you had to do to be loved, because you're already loved, you're already treasured, you're already delighted in. So I encourage you, allow Jesus, the true brother, our true brother, to come and gather you up and bring you into the Father's love and find rest, find peace, find satisfaction there, a satisfaction that you've never known before. Would you pray with me? Jesus, thank you for being the true younger son, for being the true older son, for being the true Father who comes and loves us. God, thank you for loving us and revealing your love to us. Thank you that we don't have to perform our way into your love, but it's already there. We are already loved despite our failed performances, despite our true performances. May we find our hope, our identity, ourselves in you, and thus be free to go and love others as you love them. We need you to perform this great work in us, and so keep gathering us up. Keep, when we are tempted to stray to the distant country, to find our hope there, come and gather us up, bring us into your joy, that we may fully delight in you and be delighted in by you. In you we hope, and in you we pray. Amen. Got one more song for you, and this is a song by Matt Maher, and it's called Lord, I Need You. And I like this song because I find it very difficult to find my identity in God. I find it very difficult to allow myself to be fully loved because I feel so darn unworthy. But God says I am worthy. And He says I am loved. And so this song is my prayer that He would continue this great work and continue gathering me up and bringing me into His joy. God, I need Him. Is found is where you are, and where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So teach my song to rise to you. When temptation comes my way, when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So I encourage you all out there, remember this story and believe it is true. And if you find you cannot believe it is true, then fall on your knees and allow God to convince you it is true. He loves you. He loves me. He loves all of us despite and in addition to all of our flaws and imperfections. He loves us and delights in us more than we can imagine. And so be encouraged. Allow Him to bring you into His joy. May God bless you keep you. May his face shine upon you. And dear God, give us peace. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next week, and I look forward to what Jesus has in store for us then. I'll see you then. Hey guys, just wanted to make a quick additional note. I forgot to work it into my sermon, but I am eternally grateful to both Henry Nouwen and Renee Brown for their incredible work. If you are like me and you have great difficulty fully living into the Father's joy, I highly encourage you, check out Henry Nouwen. It's Henry with an I, Nouwen, his Return of the Prodigal Son, where he sort of talks about this painting and this parable that I read. And Renee Brown, she's got a bunch of work on shame and vulnerability. I'm working through Daring Greatly, and it's fantastic work. So it's good stuff to check out, and those are two people that I think Jesus uses mightily to convince us just how deeply loved we are.